And tonight on The Probe, time is running out. And of course,
The
the
alleged
Republic
will
of Ghana has a limited time to prove and to show evidence of work done actually on the grounds to deal with deforestation, as the country received over 4.8 million US dollars from the World Bank in carbon credits. Well, tonight the conversation we're having has got to do with the country that is rating high on the deforestation index and is taking steps to plant more trees. Of course, the president, Nana Addo Akufo-Addo, announcing that 22 million trees will be planted in the next few years. But how close are we to meeting that target, and what steps are we taking to protect these new trees, or perhaps the older ones that we've lost and we have a few remaining that we need to seriously protect? And what steps are we also taking to ensure that activities, commercial ones, including illegal mining, better known as galamsey, which is rampant in our part of the country, is being nipped in the bud to allow for the grains to grow here in the country? That's on The Probe, on the Joy News channel, Joy 99.7 FM, myjoyonline.com, and of course our affiliates across the country. Be my guest, and we'll be delving into the matters right after this break. Welcome back to The Probe. My name is Blessed Sogah, and tonight we're talking about saving the forest, and we're diagnosing the problem relating to Ghana's depleting vegetation cover. So let me tell you about my guest helping us with a discussion tonight. For those of you listening to us on radio, it's on Joy 99.7 FM and affiliates across the country. Also on the Joy News channel here, we have joining me in studio, Dr. John Kingsley Krugu. Dr. John Kingsley Krugu is the National Coordinator for the Landscape Restoration and Small-Scale Mining Project. He's been up to a lot in terms of land restoration. We'll tell you about that shortly. Nana Boachi Chumesi Ankra is the project manager for Tempros, that's Tropin Boss Ghana. Their CSO is a CSO based in forest conservation, and they'll be telling us much more about their work and how we're faring as a country. Awula Sewa is with the Eco-Conscious Citizens Group, also mounting pressure on government to try as much as possible to sustain the greens. So we'll get into it shortly. And I have joining us from Nigeria, Mike David Terungwa. He is the team lead for GIFSEP and also Africa Regional Coordinator for Citizens Climate International. Thanks, gentlemen and lady, for joining us. We'll be coming to those of you online, but let me first of all welcome Dr. Krugu, who's joining us in studio. Doc, good evening and welcome to The Probe.
Good evening, and good evening to all your listeners.
And I'm sure that you know that a lot of fires are awaiting you online with our colleagues joining us from civil society. They are really passionate about ensuring that we protect the forests. But let's start off from Ghana's journey, because the World Bank announced at the start of this year that we're the second country after Mozambique to have received some 4.8 million US dollars. And we're receiving that in carbon credits. But beyond that, there's 50 billion or 50 million plus up for grabs if we are able to show the evidence of work done in reducing deforestation. Where's the evidence, by the way?
Thank you very much, and good evening again to your listeners. First of all, I have to say that I sit here as the coordinator of the Ghana Landscape Restoration and Small-Scale Mining Project. So permit me to say, to introduce what it means, right, so that it can put our discussion in context. Right. So the Ghana Landscape Restoration Small-Scale Mining Project is an initiative of the government to address the gamut of issues in the natural resources management area. And it has two strands, and that is important to mention, right, because then we have the landscape restoration component being led by EPA, My colleague there is IC Aqua, a brilliant guy, working with a brilliant team, and they are leading this landscape restoration component. And if I say landscape restoration, it's not just about land reclamation, but restoring the vegetative cover in all aspects of it. That also include climate, addressing climate issues and all of that. The other strand is the small scale mining formalization component, and that rests within the Ministry of Lands and Natural Resources. You know, EPA is under the Ministry of Environment, Science, Technology, Innovation, and the small scale component is under the Ministry of Lands and Natural Resources, where I operate from, you know. And so these two strands come together to form the Ghana Landscape Restoration and Small Scale Mining Project. Now back to your question about, and it is true that we've started receiving 4 million US dollars carbon fund, and that did not come by chance. You have to know that it came because Ghana has been able to achieve carbon emission of some 900,000 carbon dioxide equivalent, which is what has prompted, which is what has achieved that objective of being able to receive that money as a start to continue and to aim at getting the 50 million. So if you talk about where is the evidence is that some 900,000 carbon dioxide equivalent emissions have been achieved. And that did not come on a silver platter.
So you're using the World Bank as an escape. That's all you're doing.
Pardon?
You're using the World Bank as an escape. The fact that they've given you the money, you believe you've done significant work.
Well, you know that Ghana is, after you said after Mozambique, Ghana is the second country in Africa to achieve that. So that is not a mere achievement. It's not just using the World Bank as an escape. Then any other country could have done that. You need to be able to show results. You need to be able to show that you are achieving something in order to be able to get the World Bank to give you that fund, you know. And Ghana is the second country, so that's important. But that came because you know that the RED Plus strategy, Ghana is implementing the cocoa RED Plus strategy program, which is a brilliant work being done by Cocoa Board and the Ministry of Agriculture, working to be able to achieve that. Ghana, if you remember, in last year, His Excellency the Vice President also launched the Ghana Share Landscape program, and that is also ongoing. We even believe that that is also going to be able to achieve a certain amount of carbon dioxide equivalent that will attract. So I wouldn't be surprised that before the end of this year, they may announce an additional, funding to Ghana.
That's what you hope for.
Yes, because work is ongoing. Work is ongoing, and you are also aware that the other initiatives under the Ministry of Lands and Natural Resources, the Greening Ghana project, that you know that last year we exceeded the target of 20 million trees.
You have?
Yes, it was exceeded. The target of 20 million was exceeded.
Where are the trees, by the way?
Well, go around. In fact, this year, if you listen to the Minister for Lands and Natural Resources, the last time he met the press, he did say that this year, His Excellency the President has directed that the target for this year should be 10 million. And the reason is that because we have over 20 million trees to make sure that there is a proper follow-up to ensure that those trees are safe and protected and they can grow. And that is why the president said, don't put another 20 or 30 million out there. Let's make sure that we protect what has been achieved and only target 10 million. Okay. That is the reason why we're going for 10 million.
Let's find out from the CSOs as well. Nana Bochi, you're with us extensively. Your work deals with some of these forest reserves as well. What's your assessment? Do you believe that it's the case that we're meeting the targets and in fact we're exceeding it, as we're hearing from Doc? And kindly unmute for me so I can hear you. Yes, Nana Bochi, if you can hear me, I'm asking what you also think about that.
All right, thank you. Okay, I think that in terms of receiving emission credits or payment from the World Bank, yes, I can't say zero have been done by the government. A lot of things have been done, but I think that we have not gotten to the level where we should pat our backs in the back and say that we have done so well, and that is the reason why we having all this. Indeed, some efforts have been put in getting these results, but there is more that is remaining to be achieved in the sense that even veering off that carbon payment to talk about the 20 million trees that were planted last year, for instance, one thing that we from our side see is that these trees planted are usually equated to trees supplied. So we say that they have been planted, but they have been supplied. There were news last year, for instance, that trees that had been supplied to certain groups of people to be planted were being kept as places that are not meant to be, and they were not planted. And there are places to it that they are planted, and yet they are removed for developmental projects. There are examples, even in Kumasi, where I am, that filling stations are being built at places that are waterlogged, that were supposed to be conserved as a watershed area. And so some of these things happen on the very day that we are supposed to plant. People will go out, plant, but we are not so careful about where we plant them. And even when we have planted them, whether they will live there to see maturity or not has not really been a matter of concern to most of us and the people in charge. And so even in terms of the carbon payment, let me come back to that. There was a baseline set. Efforts have been made to conserve what we already have. But for the places that are depleted, how much effort have been made to make sure that they are brought back? And there is one thing that I also call leakages. So if you are protecting one area so much, and by deliberate attempts, other places are made exposed to destruction, then what are we doing to ourselves? Destruction of forest, the effects of destruction of forest is not limited to the locality where they are destroyed. And so even if, let's say, it is destroyed in the western region of Ghana, the effects go beyond the western region, even beyond Ghana. And so if we protect an area in the western region, for instance, and we subject a place like Atiwa Forest to destruction, we have not done much. And to actually link it to the discussion in terms of carbon payment from the World Bank, the GCFRP that my friend spoke about, the coordinator spoke about, has not really gone through much in terms of progression in the Tiwa area. Why is it so? Because the people in charge are not confident whether this place will not be given out for mining. And so that is why other areas, other HIA, hot spot intervention areas have been given out, have progressed in terms of development of the landscape.
And in fact,
this place are not.
Right. The Etiwa area you're talking about, Doc, correct me if I'm wrong, is part of the focal areas under this project. We'll get into it shortly. And Awolasewa as well is very much concerned about this area, the Etiwa forest, because Awola, you've been running a campaign asking government to halt any form of prospecting in the area, but it doesn't seem to be yielding results, is it? I will also kindly unmute so I can hear the point you're making.
Hello.
Yes.
Good evening. Thank you very much for having us. Yes, the campaign actually is being led by Erocha Ghana. We're very grateful to them. We're part of the campaign. And we are saying that if we are actually serious about preserving our forests, we will not be dreaming of mining bauxite at Etiwa Forest Reserve when we have been told that not only will it poison or contaminate the source of water to over 5 million Ghanaians, but it will also destroy the ecosystem and kill endangered plant and animal species. So we don't seem, in my view, to be particularly serious about forest conservation. We also have Achimota Forest. We know that parts of it were declassified. Again, one will ask oneself, if we are interested in conservation of our forests, why would we dream of declassifying parts of Achimota Forest? So what we are saying is that we don't seem to be consistent in what we are doing. And may I add that even with the Green Ghana, the week that the trees were planted, we had reports of goats munching on some of the trees because they hadn't been protected. So as the previous speaker said, yes, it is true, 20 million trees may have been supplied, but whether those trees are going to see the light of day, only proper monitoring will tell us if that is the case or not.
But of course, you've heard from Doc talking about the fact that we're just number 2. I mean, in terms of the whole of Africa, receiving some carbon credits, translating into hard cash for us. That's good news, isn't it?
Well, what I would say is that since we are aware that we can receive carbon credits, that it will then make everybody wonder why we are not interested in declaring, for example, Etiwa Forest Reserve as a national park so that we can get the carbon credits from there. And it should also set in our minds that mining is not the only way of the country receiving income. Natural resources are not just the minerals that we can mine. And we know very well that as we stand right now, mining is causing a lot of devastation. So we need to have a pause on mining, especially community mining, and then look to see at other ways we can focus on the green economy. That is, if we are really serious about protecting our forests. We know that we have lost a lot of forest cover in a very short period, and we need to be serious about addressing sustainability and also looking at the rights of the local people. There are various areas where the communities have said we do not want community mining, and it seems to be thrust upon them, which doesn't look like we are respecting their fundamental human rights.
And in fact, I'll be coming to Doc to address some of these concerns. But let's bring in Mike, because Mike, you were in Accra, I guess somewhere last year, holding a conference on the Guinean, forests of West Africa. That's an area that spans and includes biodiversity spots here in Ghana as well. Where do we stand in the sub-region and by extension the whole of Africa as well?
Thank you so much for the opportunity to be here today. This program is airing just a day before the International Day of Forest with the theme Forests and Health. And it's critical for the entire West Africa. First, it's important to give a quick background that the Guinean forest of West Africa is a key biodiversity hotspot. And it covers 11 countries, covering over 621 kilometers. The hotspot is divided into 2 sub-regions, the Upper Guinean Forest and the Lower Guinean Forest. The Upper Guinean Forest stretches from Guinea, from Sierra Leone, Liberia, Cote d'Ivoire, Ghana, Togo, and marginally into the Republic of Benin. The Lower Guinean Forest is covering much of southern Nigeria, and it also extends into Cameroon and also includes Sao Tome and Principe and an offshore island in the Equatorial Guinea. This area is is a hotspot for biodiversity. I mean, globally, about 10 million hectares of forest is destroyed every year as a result of deforestation. And it's higher in Africa because Africa accounts for 4 million hectares of forests that are cut down each year. And this includes the forest in Ghana as well. And I've been listening to the conversation. The good news is that I was at Atewa Forest sometime in June last year, and I saw firsthand the level of deforestation as a result of mining in Atewa Forest. So as my colleague is speaking about 10 million trees and 20 million trees,
Right.
my mind went back to what I saw at Atewa Forest. And I can clearly say that it is easy to say that 10 million trees are planted, but it's quite difficult to point out where those 10 million trees are. It will be a ceremony if the president and all the other government officials come up every day, I mean, at a tree planting ceremony and plant, and there is a lot of photos taken. The real story is go back 1 year after to where this was done and check how many are surviving.
Yeah, but the point is we're receiving the funding for it. So if there's no evidence of work done, why are countries such as Ghana receiving carbon credits?
Well, it is good that Ghana is among one of the countries in Africa that is receiving carbon credit. I believe they are also part of the Red Plus project. But sometimes we look at these things and we feel that they are not the solution. Who should actually get carbon credit? For me, it is the communities, the host communities that protect these forests, that depend on these forests for their livelihood and survival. They are the ones that actually deserve to be given carbon credit for protecting the forest. I'm not just talking about Ghana alone, I'm talking about every other country, including the Amazon forest in Brazil. Because these people, their livelihood totally depends on the forest. What are we talking about? We are talking about the ecosystem services that these forests offer, that these communities' livelihood and life depends on. We are looking at the purification of water. We are looking at the purification of air. We are looking at the carbon capture and storage, which is helping to combat climate change. We are looking at the provision of food to these communities. And more importantly, the medicines that these forests provide, which help even our well-being. So in this case, should carbon credits actually go to the government directly? No. The people who plant, who live in these communities know the forest. They can plant and maintain and ensure that these forests are protected.
All right,
and that is where the missing link is.
Mike, just hold on for me because Doc has been taking note of all the points you're making. Doc, what would you want to start off from?
Yes. First of all, I want to start with the tree
Ceremony,
planting,
yes,
the
precisely.
ceremony thing. And I want to put on record that, you know, the Green Ghana project last year was the second year.
Right.
So
So we started with 5 million.
Yes.
We started with 5 million trees.
Yes.
Then we scaled that
To 20 million.
To 20 million. And,
Yes.
and you're saying that this year?
This year,
we're
10
planning
million,
to do-
because His
We're planning
Excellency...
to do 10.
Yes, His Excellency the President has directed that more attention should be paid to what has already been planted. So if you continue to increase the numbers, then it becomes difficult to be able to. But I have to say that last year, the target was 20 million. But in actual fact, 26,563,600 seedlings were distributed.
But Doc,
Wait, let me land.
You're telling us.
Let me land with this sentence. This is important. This was distributed, but 24,500,000 were verified to have been planted. So it is not just the number of seedlings distributed, but the Forestry Commission has done an excellent job going around the country to see the number of seedlings that were actually planted. And this is this 24 million
so you
that
verified,
was verified.
So you verified that
Yes.
you planted 24 million.
Yes, the Forestry Commission verified that.
How did you carry out that?
The Forestry Commission is all over the country. And don't forget that it was the Forestry Commission that led the distribution of seedlings. So if you are giving a seedlings, they will come back and check what happened to those seedlings, and you will show where they were being planted.
And now Mike is asking the question.
24
Yes, 24
has been planted.
But Mike is asking the question that if you've planted 24,
Yes.
can we go back to these areas and to say, well, we can find them at the same spot?
Yes, exactly. And this is the reason why the target for this year is 10 million. Because the president has directed that let's pay attention to what has been planted. So you media guys can always go to the Forestry Commission and say, take me to some of the places where these trees are and have a look. And you will cover them.
And the trees are
there. And the trees are there. We were on a tour with the World Bank, but this was for my project, and we went all the way to Upper West. And we went and visited places where trees were planted. We saw the trees that were planted. And so that is not in doubt at all. But I want to come back to the issues about, and I have to also say that nobody is saying that we should pat ourselves in the back and say we have addressed the issues that we are confronted when it comes to our forest cover and our vegetative cover. No, the challenges are still out there. What is important is government response to those challenges. For example, they're talking about the Atiwa forest and other forest areas. But the Ministry of Lands and Natural Resources, the policy as it is now, is that recognizance and explorative activities in forest areas remain banned. So you then have illegal mining activities happening in these areas. And that is the reason why the government is implementing a two-pronged solution. One is law enforcement. So you know that there is still Operation Hall 2 with security agencies out there. You heard recently that the Minerals Commission has trained river guards and preparing them to make sure that they are also out there to support. As we speak, my project is supporting Water Resources Commission to also have another group we call river monitors. They are also going to go there to protect our river bodies. So government is at it. That is one strand of an approach. The other approach is that, and I heard Mike David make an important point, and I completely agree with him. It is communities that should benefit. The project, the development goal of the project I'm coordinating is to strengthen natural resource management and increase benefits to communities. And he's pointed because communities are living by river bodies, by all the natural resources. And if we don't make sure benefits reaches them, the only point I differ from him is when he says it should go to the community. And that is because it comes and then the Forestry Commission.
When the money comes,
Forestry
it goes to the government, isn't it?
Yes, and the Forestry Commission takes it and go to the community. The forest communities is all over the country, and they are implementing projects for the benefits of those communities.
Are you sure the people down there are feeling the money, the dollars?
I can tell you people are feeling it, because if you go to, we went to, I've forgotten the name, a place in the Upper West, and a dugout, this dam was made for the community. And you need to see the difference it has made in the life of the people there. Their animals have water to drink. That is what we mean when we say benefits to the community. So it is true and it is important that the problems are still out there. But government is doing its best through, for example, my project.
Right.
A number of aspects is being implemented. We are strengthening institutions to make sure the Forestry Commission, the Minerals Commission, the Ghana Geological Survey Authority, Water Resources Commission are able to deliver on their mandate to be able to address the issues.
The elephant in the room, the Itiwa forest. Yes. What's the plan around it, and why is government not being open about what's going to happen to that area?
I can't speak to Itiwa forest specifically, right, because what I know is a policy covering all forest areas.
Right. Which is, generally speaking, which is that recognizance and exploration activities are banned. But we're not setting when it comes to the story
forests, in all forest areas. They are banned as we speak now. You know, except in exceptional cases where it is permitted.
And that's where the controversy is, because the belief is we're even putting up laws that give the express permission or authority, for instance, to the president, that he could waive this ban and allow for some prospecting to take place if it is deemed to be in the interest of the state.
Exactly.
And that's a controversial bill to put up as a law.
It's not controversial. For example, if you have a forest area, and people can do airborne geophysics, for example, to determine a mineralized content. And the aim is to engage in large-scale mining, which goes underground, for example, to go underground and don't destroy the vegetative cover. Right. And you can use airborne geophysics to be able to determine the mineralized content and do that. That is also in the interest of the communities living around there. Don't forget that if you don't also provide benefits to these communities, they will go inside there and either cut the same trees for firewood or for charcoal and all of that in an attempt to survive. So that is why when it becomes necessary that the government, and that is why I said exceptional cases, circumstances
who
where
determines that? Who determines that?
It is in the interest of the people of Ghana. Right. It is the people of Ghana who owns the natural resources.
But that power is in the hands of the president. So the president says, well, I see that Itiwa has a commercial interest. Let's go ahead and mine in the area. Yes. Once that is said, we're going ahead with it, correct? That's per what the law is saying.
Yes, I mean
that's permitted. But that's not fair, is it?
As long as measures are put in place to not destroy, okay. As long as measures are put in place to not destroy, and the president determines that that is in the best interest of the people of Ghana, the resources are invested in the president as a custodian. On behalf of the people of Ghana. So the resources belong to the people of Ghana. And so when there is a determination that this is in the best interest of the country and that we can still preserve the area for future generations, there's nothing wrong with that. Don't forget, there's nothing wrong with exploiting the natural resources. What is wrong is depleting it and creating problems for future generations. And destroying our biodiversity and all of that. That is what is unacceptable. But there's nothing. And I heard a colleague talked about community mining.
Right.
Now, community mining should not be seen as part of the problem. Community mining should be seen as part of the solution. I'll tell you why. We were in South Africa recently, and the conclusion that came in Mining in Durban 2023 is that if you take agriculture, the second activity that engages young people in an economic activity is mining. Take agriculture, second is mining, across Africa. Right. So you have a large population of young people who are engaged in mining. Now, if you continue to see that as a problem, you have a bigger problem. You have to begin to see it as an opportunity. Government community mining initiative is to say that let us look at this issue of illegal mining from a positive perspective. Let's see it as an opportunity. If young people go in there and get something and able to take care of their families, it's a good thing.
Doc, why not find jobs for these young people? Why not find jobs for these young people?
Can we transition
and let them go off their minds?
Can we transition the illegality into legality? Can we get them under the supervision of the Minerals Commission and the Environmental Protection Agency so that they can do the right thing? That is what community mining seeks to do, to help formalize the process so that a mine project is working to train these miners, ASM operators, so that they can appreciate what does it mean to do responsible mining.
And that's what you've been criticized, that you're basically legalizing Galamsey, which will come with associated problems of destroying our forest reserves and the vegetation cover.
The last community mining that was commissioned was in Bongo, in the Upper East region, and the minister himself, Honorable Samuel Abu Jinapo, was there to commission. What he told the people there is that the day he would see that they are operating outside the regulations of the Mineral Commission and the Environmental Protection Agency or the Water Resources Commission, that very day, the community mining will close down.
Doctor, hold on.
It is more of, it's not another form of Galamsey, because then why should the ministry that is fighting Galamsey be the one to promote Galamsey?
Interesting. Well, let me take your thoughts on this. The fact that there's a youth bulge as well. You want to deal with the problems of unemployment. So why not create some opportunities in the mining sector? And kindly unmute for us so we can hear you. Yes. Awolasewa, are you with us?
Yes, I'm with you.
Right.
I don't know what's happening today. I was having problems.
Okay, that's fine. Yes.
First of all, I'd like to make 2 points. One of the points being made was the fact that, yes, there'll be no reconnaissance and so on and so forth, except under exceptional circumstances. This is very, very dangerous because it's opening the door. We know the kind of regime we have. Everything will become exceptional and there will be no ban whatsoever. So if we are banning it, let's ban it and forget about exceptional circumstances.
Yeah, but there's a caveat there. What's in the interest of the state? And such circumstances, the president may permit that to happen.
And the point I'm making is that looking at our track record, what has been going on, does anybody really think that that judgment will be exercised in the interest of the people? If an area is a protected forest reserve, let's leave it at such. There's a reason why it's a protected forest reserve. If we keep opening the door, the depletion will be worse than it is already. Second of all, talking about employment and community mining, the challenge is our weak monitoring regime. Even with the big companies, are we really monitoring as well as we should be? And the difficulty with the community mining is that the monitoring is not really there. And that is why people see it as a legalized form of Galamsey, because they see the effects as the same. We are still having our waters and land poisoned. And that is why people are saying, pause the community mining, because you don't have a proper monitoring regime in place. Let's be very clear about that. We do not have one. So those are the points that I'd like to make. And let's also not forget that in terms of employment, mining is not the only form of employment. There are other forms of employment. We have the green economy. We have so many of our plants that are medicinal, that are useful for so many things. There are so many things that can be done. Let's not delude ourselves into believing that it's only mining that will bring about employment. And what's the point of bringing about this employment at the expense of poisoning people, poisoning our waters, poisoning our land?
Okay, Mike, the conservation groups, and Mike, I'm bringing you in here. When you talk about this whole green economy, is it paying off that much as compared to what happens, for instance, in the extractive sector? Gold has, of course, a significant value.
Yes, I'm blessed. Thank you again. The fact is that can you quantify the amount of oxygen that you breathe in? I mean, safe air, clean water. Can you put a price to it? So with that, you will know that the amount of money that a government earns from mining can never be equated to clean water, to clean air, to health, to food, to biodiversity. I mean, take a look at the Guinean forest of West Africa again. This region, this hotspot, I call it a hotspot, it has at least 936 species and animals that are found in the hotspots that are already threatened.
Yeah, but if we have the animals, we'll just hunt them as compared to gold. Of course, it has a lot of value, you agree?
Their role in the ecosystem cannot be paid. You cannot equate that to money. This is the truth. I mean, check out again, like I said, can you quantify the amount of oxygen that a human requires, clean air, and the effect on our health budget, the effect on agriculture, the effect on water? This is what we are talking about. And I totally agree with my sister that these areas need to be protected, like no mining, like no interaction whatsoever, because of the role they perform. And I believe that if the government of Ghana and other countries in West Africa do this, apart from carbon credits, which is just part of what they will get, the benefits are so many.
Okay, here's the situation. For instance, let's take the context of Ghana. You have a situation where your youth want opportunities. You're already giving that opportunity to multinationals who are coming into your country mining, I mean, anyway. So why not engage, for instance, like what Doc is talking about, in community mining? Allow them to mine small portions, and then they save the rest for the nation.
So the issue of poverty in Africa is real. Ghana is just one country with these same issues, just like Nigeria and other countries. But what do you do? Do you just allow artisanal miners go into the forest and destroy the forest and have a negative effect on the ecosystem that affects the entire West African region or the world? No. So what you need to do is to bring all the artisanal miners together. Can you train them? Can you monitor them? Can you train them on safe use of mining chemicals? For example, mercury that will pollute the entire water, that a region in Ghana can be affected. Looking at the health implication, looking at the entire ecosystem. So, and that's why you need to bring them all together, train them and empower them. I mean, but why should we just be looking at international organizations alone to come and mine in our countries? Can we look the way of local operators again and empower them? All they need is empowerment and training so that they can mine and mine sustainably. Is there anything like mining sustainably? It's a big question. Well,
yeah, interesting question you're asking there. Very interesting question there. But of course, that's why, Nana, you've been raising some issues with, for instance, this regulation, mining regulation, dealing with, for instance, specifically mining within the forest reserves. It's one of the latest laws that we have on our tables to deal with issues relating to saving the forest. And you say that, for instance, the power given to the president to revise or perhaps take away that ban or reconnaissance within a mining, a forest reserve should be relooked at within the law. Why do you feel that the president may not act in the national interest?
Just to set the basis for this particular point that I want to make.
Yes, go ahead, Nana.
It was mentioned by the coordinator that there is a policy banning exploration and then prospecting and all that. Actually, it is only an administrative fiat that is putting a moratorium on this. And at any time, we can wake up tomorrow and still have the minister say that he has lifted the moratorium or the ban on the exploration. So that one is not really a policy document, but then it's an administrative announcement that was made. Let me go back to the substantive issue of the law. Mining in forest reserves are something that have been happening, and that there have been guidelines to that. But just last year, an LI 2462 was passed somewhere in July. And then clearly, happily enough, Regulation 3 gives exemption to places and areas that cannot be mined, which is very excellent. However, just immediately after the regulation, after sub-regulation 1, you come to a provision where a window is given to the president to allow mining, especially in globally significant biodiversity areas, which is very worrying to us, because it then puts discretionary powers in one person who is the head of state, though, to decide whether a place which is globally significant biodiversity area could be destroyed at any point, just because in the view of our leader, he thinks that it is in the interest of the state. Now,
but every law, but if you agree with me, every law should have, say, an exception. So are we saying that we will not mine any longer simply because we're having challenges with deforestation, illegal mining and all of that? At least we've got to mine to make some money, right?
Very good. And that is why in previous times the laws allowed, but the laws allowed specifically in production forest reserves and not every forest reserve. So there are working circles. If you are foresters would understand what I mean, working circles in the forest reserve. So we have research working circles, we have production working circles, we have protection working circles. Okay. And so the production areas are places that already harvesting is allowed. And so if harvesting is allowed in those areas, then in those areas that we also allow by our laws previously, would allow mining to also happen. But here is the case that this window creates the opportunity for other places which are environmentally sensitive to also be mined, which is very serious, because in that case, now let's say take the situation where already some civil society organizations and individuals are taking the government on in court on the Atiwa Forest Reserve, because they believe that beyond the legal issues, it is also against the rights of the people to clean environment. Now, this window is created. And so it is actually going to present a situation where you say that, okay, this is legal because the laws allow. The new LI 2462 is allowing it. And it is just at the discretion. The discretion is too much. That is the point I want to make. And that should not happen. Once exemptions have been made, that plantations will not be allowed, hill sanctuaries shouldn't be allowed, watershed areas shouldn't be allowed. That should hold. And we should not add a certain point which will, in a way, indirectly nullify all the exemptions that we put in under sub-regulation 1 and regulation 3.
No, I get the point you're making there.
So that is the point I'm making.
Let's hear from Doc, because Doc, the fear about discretionary power, particularly when it's in the hands of a politician who may consider so many factors before giving the go-ahead for probably prospecting or whatever activity it is that will have to take place in the forest reserve. And we have precedents as well to guide us that, well, we've seen some individuals give that out to individuals, right?
Yes.
Should we not be worried about this new regulation that's up? And the fact that it may derail your project, for instance, because you may go ahead, do the reclamation, restore the landscape, and that vegetation cover will still be wiped away anyway.
I think that the panelists have raised important issues on that. Let me start with the issue of the administrative fiat on recognizance, exploration, and all of that is banned in there. And I think that if you come into government and you are confronted with problems, you have to take steps to address them. That is why people run for office and get elected into office. And so, yes, it is an administrative directive, but that is the first step you would do. If you check and the legal regime does not protect that, you need to issue a policy directive to make sure you do something about it. As I speak now, the mining policy is under review.
Oh, you're reviewing that?
Yeah, it's under review. Even the legal framework is under review to make sure that the laws are tightened to be able to protect our natural resources. So yes, if you come to meet a system, you have to look at it, you have to take measures, and that is part of the measures. And I agree. And I think the minister responsible for lands and natural resources has repeatedly said that yes, we need to strengthen the legal framework to make sure that we can protect the resources going forward. Second point, I think Mike David was almost at the point describing the project I'm coordinating, because he says that there is a need to train small-scale miners, ASM operators, on responsible and sustainable mining.
But he says the
and
question
he went to raise the question
can we ever
whether
get to that point?
There is sustainable mining. Yes, I think we can get there. It's not an easy road, and it is not all Ghana. I mean, if you talk about in Ghana, we call it galamsey. In South Africa, they call it zamazama. And you go to Australia, they call it prospectors. Every country is dealing with this issue of people trying to exploit natural resources, not through the regulatory framework of the country. And every country is trying to deal with it. We think that one of the components of the project I'm coordinating is exactly what Mike was talking about. Train small-scale miners on responsible and sustainable mining. Deal with the issue of the use of mercury and cyanide. That the use of these heavy metals, that is also a problem that we have to deal with. And introduce mercury-free technologies. You know that the president launches 100 gold catcher machines. These are mercury-free technology. The experts at the University of Mines in Takwa excellently have this Sikabuchia, which is also a fantastic, this is Ghanaian innovation created. And we are supporting them to be able to see how it can be used by small-scale miners. And government is also dealing with governance issues. I have to state that this is the first time in this country that we went around the entire country, almost everywhere there is a mining. We've inaugurated what is called a district mining committee. These committees have the district chief executive as a member, and they have the traditional leaders as a member. This is the first time that we are taking the operational aspect of dealing with the gamut of illegalities in the mining sector to the local level. Let the traditional leaders, let the district chief executive, let the district assembly with membership on the committee work together with the Minerals Commission district offices to deal with the issues at the local level. It's also the first time that that kind of empowerment, and as I speak, UMAT is working on a detailed training curriculum. What exactly Mike was talking about, you know, for the training and capacity building, including this district mining committee. And through my project also, resources will be provided to these committees to make sure that they can monitor mining activities at the local level.
International Forest Day is just some hours away.
Yes.
What are the plans?
Yes, so Forest and Health is a team, and government is using that as an occasion to ramp up the efforts to make sure that the forest, we can protect the vegetative cover of this country. And so there's going to be a statement to that effect, and then...
And we'll have the 10 million trees as well.
And then, of course, we will have the 10 million trees to be planted.
That we can verify.
That we can verify. I mean, if we are able to verify 20 million trees, what is 10 million trees?
By the way. Okay, we need to go. A minute each for my guests on Zoom. Let me start off with you, Mike David. Mike, if you're with us, your final words on this.
Yes, thank you so much. I'd like to say in conclusion that around the Guinean forests of West Africa, including Ghana inclusive, we have 85 million people who are dependent on this forest. And so any initiate this forest must include the to do is to ensure that we review some of our forestry laws, which in most cases are very, very archaic. And remember that climate change is impacting on our forest, bringing drought on wildfire. Unfortunately, mining, artisanal mining, or commercial mining is impacting on our forest. So we need to take climate action to ensure that we protect this nature's gift that we have. Thank you very much.
Thank you too, and thanks for joining us all the way from Nigeria. The elections are underway. We'll have that conversation later on. But for you, Awolasewa, what will be your final point on this?
My final say is that let's protect our existing forests, rescind the declassification of Achimota forests, which are the lungs of Accra, and for heaven's sake, abandon ideas to mine bauxite in Etiwa Forest Reserve, because this will not only poison the source of water to over 5 billion Ghanaians, but it will also destroy the ecosystem and endangered plants and animal species. Let's protect our forests. There's no point in planting 20 million trees, but destroying the forests you already have.
And for you, Nana Bonchim?
Okay, so to add to what my colleagues have already mentioned, I think the government should show a high level of commitment to forest conservation and biodiversity conservation, in the sense that some legal regulations or some regulations in the sector need to be relooked at because of the discretionary powers that may be misused. Because there are experiences in the past, especially in the timber sector, where a provision was made to give room for the minister to give special permits for concessions to be given to contractors, where it will not have to go through parliamentary ratification. And it became an albatross on the neck of the state when we were implementing the voluntary partnership agreement, which is still underway. And so I think that in order not to come to such a hitch again in our forestry sector and in our conservation agenda, some of these regulations should be relooked at and not give so much power and discretionary power, for that matter, to one person or category of persons in the state.
Nana, thank you. And as we wrap up, Doc, for you, I'm interested in, just as we wrap up, briefly touch on that for us. What arrangements do you have? Because the Etiwa Forest appears to be a priority for the World Bank. What collective agreement do you have between the Republic of Ghana and the World Bank regarding the future of the forest?
As I said, right, we are looking at the entire forest landscape of Ghana. So it's not just Etiwa.
Well, why are you running away from
No, I'm not running away from
right.
Etiwa because I'm a national coordinator. I'm coordinating a project that covers
for the entire nation,
including
Etiwa as well.
Including Etiwa as well. And so we are working to make sure that we protect the entire forest landscape. And I think that my last words is that this is a collective responsibility. All of us as Ghanaians, we need to protect the natural resources and make sure communities can benefit
and I'm grateful.
from those natural
I'm grateful.
resources.
That's Dr. John Kingsley Kruger, is the National Coordinator for Landscape Restoration and Small-Scale Mining. We also have Nana Boachi Chumesi Ankra, Project Manager, Trop Boss Ghana. I will ask the wise with the eco-conscious citizens here in Ghana. Mike David Terunga as the team lead, GIFSEP, and also Africa Regional Coordinator for Climate International. Thanks for watching. I'm Blessed Sogah, and we'll see you again here on The Probe. Thanks for watching.